The machine that Alan Turing created, ENIAC, was wonderful, but to program it you had to move the wires around. But as you'd expect, the technology moved on and valves were invented. Valves had been around for quite some time, but it revolutionized computing. It meant that now you could write computer programs in machine code, little steps that were very complicated. So the first person to write a computer program was Grace Murray Hopper, another woman. She decided that what was needed was something a bit cleverer. She'd been a PhD mathematician, met her husband and married early. Unfortunately, though, her husband had died, and so she turned back to mathematics as a way to fulfill her life. She wrote all this machine code and thought, I'm writing the same code time and time again. Supposing what I did was create little batches of machine code programs that did particular tasks. For example, print something to the printer or accept something from the keyboard. And so she sat down and created the Common Business Orientated Language. She was using it to do the logistics in the Royal Naval Corps, and it saw her rise up the ranks pretty quickly. She ended up as a Rear Admiral.
As the first person to create a programming language, Grace Hopper had to invent a great many of the ideas we still use today. She decided it would be a good thing to have names for places in memories, so that the programmer would know what it held. So if you wanted to hold an age, then you'd call that space age. And if you wanted to use the current year in your program, then you call that space year. Since the contents of this space in memory could change, she called these things variables. And if we're talking about grammar, then these variables would be the objects. She also realised that a sentence needs verbs, so she invented the idea of commands. The sentences had verbs, doing words, and objects, variables, the places in memory, and they ended with a full stop. So in COBOL you might write multiply age by 365, giving days, and end that with a full stop. COBOL also needed conditionals. Only do these commands if something is true. For example, if age is greater than 50, display you are old. It also had loops, so you might say for each student, if age greater than 50, display you are old. Get next student, full stop. These ideas are still in use in all programming languages today.
Once the program had been created, that was called the high-level language program, and however it was fed in, whether by punch card or paper tape, that was fed into the computer, which had a look at Grace Hopper's program. Grace Hopper's program was a compiler. It compiled the high-level language program into machine code, the ons and offs that the machine itself could understand. So you had then two copies of the computer program. You had the high-level language program on tape or on card, and you had the compiled program, the machine-readable one, on tape. And it was the machine-readable one that the computer then used to run the program. In theory, you could throw the high-level language program away if you knew that you never wanted to edit it again. This was really quite a revelation to programming, and defined how computer programs would work for years to come.